CQ RAYNET. This is Golf 4 November Romeo Charlie, operated today by Greg, Golf Sierra Delta Uniform Bravo, serving as net control for the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net. This net meets each Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time and is open to all amateur radio operators interested in emergency communications. The primary purpose of the net is to provide the opportunity for members to test equipment, exchange traffic news, opinions and information, and additional information can be found on the RAYNET-UK website at www.raynet-uk.net. This is a directed net, which means all calls are to be made to the net control station unless you are instructed otherwise, and all RAYNET-UK operators are invited and encouraged to check into the net. When you do check in, please announce your call sign slowly and phonetically, followed by your name, and if you wish to leave the net immediately after you've checked in, then please call in and out. Otherwise, please make it very clear you want to leave after subsequent turns. After I've heard a few check-ins, I'll repeat what I've heard. If you're not acknowledged, then please try again, and if you miss your turn to call in, I will call for any strays at the end of the UK and international sections. So I'll now begin taking check-ins as usual in call sign number order. So any stations with figure 8 in their call sign wishing to check in, please call now. This is G4 NRC.
Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, G8 EEY, name is Mike. Golf 8 Sierra Delta Uniform, name is Bob. Good afternoon, Greg, from sunny Norfolk. No traffic, just in and out, please.
For NRC, acknowledging Mike, Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee staying with me, and Bob, Golf 8 Sierra Delta Uniform, who's in and out. Any other 8s, please? G4 NRC, over. G4 NRC, no more 8s heard, so let's have 7s. Stations figure 7 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 NRC, over.
Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Good afternoon, Greg.
G4 NRC, good afternoon, Dave. Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Any other 7s, please? G4 NRC, over. NRC, nothing heard, so let's have 6s. Stations figure 6 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 NRC, over. For NRC, second call, any stations with figure 6 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 NRC, over. G4 NRC, then it's the 5s, stations figure 5 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 NRC, over. G4 NRC, still not many of those, let's go for 4s, stations figure 4 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 NRC, over.
Golf 4 Kilo, Whiskey Tango, name Dennis.
G4 Kilo India Lima, Philip, South Sussex.
Golf 4 Hotel Uniform Foxtrot. Another Philip or Phil. This time from Dave Valley.
G4NRC, the demographics of this list are changing a bit from what they used to be. Good afternoon, Dennis, Golf 4 Kilo Whiskey Tango, Philip, Golf 4 Kilo India Lima, and Phil, Golf 4 Hotel Uniform Foxtrot. Any other fours, please? G4NRC, over. G4NRC, nothing hurts. Let's have threes. Stations figure 3 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4NRC, over.
Golf 3, Zulu Hotel X-Ray, Ian. Golf 3 Victor, Echo Hotel, Chris in Winchester. Last call from this QDH. Good afternoon, Greg.
G4NRC, good afternoon, Ian, Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, and Chris, Golf 3 Victor Echo Hotel. Yeah, I've got a last QTH run to do from Manchester as well next week. Okay, let's, any other threes, please? G4NRC, over. G4NRC, nothing hurts. Let's go for the twos. Stations figure 2 in their call sign, and that includes you intermediate twos. Please call now. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, second call for any stations figure 2 in their call sign. Please go ahead. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, nothing heard. So stations figure 1 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, second call, any takers, stations figure 1 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, then let's go for Mike Zero stations of any regional secondary identifier, please. G4NRC, over.
Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, Drew, West Devon.
G4NRC, good afternoon, Drew, Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra. Any other Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, over? And let's have Golf 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier. Please call now. G4NRC, over.
Golf Whiskey 0, Juliet Lima X-Ray. Good afternoon, Greg. Name is Andy. RAYNET Pembrokeshire. No traffic today, so in and out, please. Over.
G4NRC, good afternoon, Andy. Golf Whiskey 0, Juliet Lima X-Ray, and copied you in and out. Thanks for checking in, though. It does bring this part of the net to an easier close. Any UK stations who've missed their turn to call in, please call now. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, then do we have any international liaison stations? That's usually Nordsand Band of Norway, Aran in Ireland, Aries in Slovakia, etc. Any of our international colleagues on the talk groups today? G4NRC, over. NRC, so let's have any stations, UK or international, any station, UK or international, that's missed their turn to call in, wishes to do so, please call now. G4NRC, over.
Echo 0, Mike Zulu Alpha.
Echo 0 Mike Zulu Alpha. Good afternoon, Elodie, and you're in the log and staying with me. Fantastic. Okay, so usual, today's net is being live streamed by Graham G7 and EH to YouTube today. Graham's sacrificing his participation to make the stream happen. If you want to see any past live streams and recordings, then please go and search G7 NEH, that's Golf 7 November Echo Hotel on YouTube. According to the diary, 6 groups have been operational this weekend on a range of different events and no doubt a range of number of operators involved. The question of how we get the right response has been raised before, but when I read that our colleagues in South Africa are covering the Durban Ironman triathlon event today with just 7 operators, the question comes back again about what is the right level of response. With the variable weather we're experiencing, please think of southern Germany and parts of Switzerland which are suffering widespread flooding following heavy rains. Aside from the normal flooding effect, there's been a landslip which caused the derailment of 2 train carriages, thankfully with no injuries. Some dams are also being breached, and so far 1 rescue worker has died, 1 is missing, and 1 further civilian casualty. So far, there's no reports of our colleagues in those countries being deployed since the cell phone networks and power grids are still functional, but there are the usual discussions about why groups are not being called out, but balanced with a good question of whether or not their own networks are actually working ready to respond themselves. Looking to the skies, yesterday's HF team net found the current solar conditions challenging, with a couple of solar flares affecting coverage for SSB on 40 and 60 metres, but by being mode agnostic, it would have been possible to pass messages using the very weak signal mode of JS8 call, sort of bringing about we have to get the message through no matter what. So with those conversation starters, let's go to the top of the list on Mike. Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee G4 NRC, over.
G4 NRC from G8 EY. Oh, I love exams. Yeah, as Bob said, clear blue sky here, 17 centigrade. 8 mile an hour winds from 13 degrees, 1026 millibars, so it's quite pleasant. Looks to be the same for tomorrow. As to how many people you deploy, well, depends on how many you've got available, obviously. But have to think about safety considerations, both for what you might call our clients and also for ourselves. So my answer will be enough. That's all I can really say on that. Yes, I've been looking at the weather conditions elsewhere, especially on the continent, but that seems to be something we're having to deal with these days. From G8 EY.
8 Echo Echo Yankee G4 NRC. Yeah, I have the same game of how many could you get. I was trying to recall when we used to cover triathlons in West Cheshire, given the mix of run, cycle and walk, how many we had covering that, and it was always nice if you could find a node point where you could double up between the events, but not always easy. Okay, next to Dave, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 NRC, over.
G4 NRC, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Yeah, good afternoon, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone on that. Yeah, as Mike just said, I think, and I totally agree with him, it's all down to availability, isn't it, for events, and yourself being the coordinator. Obviously, you get your numbers in advance, and then if we need to, you ask other local groups, don't you? And if you need to get numbers up, or if you've got enough to cover the event. HF yesterday was interesting. I was receiving virtually nothing until you did give some Morse tones, and they came through very, very well. I didn't stay on for anything else after you went down to 60 meters. But it's all worth a try, and give it a couple of weeks again when 1480 comes round. We'll have another go on the with it being weekend Saturday afternoon. Back to you, Greg. Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar.
Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4 and RC returning. Well, taking the blame for everything. The Gregorian calendar kind of wakes out that the 7th, 14th, 21st and 28th as the next nets are all on Friday evenings, Dave, rather than a Saturday afternoon. So slightly different conditions, hopefully, for HF. And not quite as vulnerable to getting the full blast of the sun in the evening for any naughtiness by way of flares, he says, fingers crossed, knowing it's not really true. Okay, thanks for trying yesterday. Now to Dennis. G4 KWT, G4 and RC, over.
G4 KWT. Good afternoon, everybody. Coming in via GB7 Bravo Kilo on the Pheonix network. The only thing I was going to bring up this afternoon was for the last few years we've been supporting an event for a fairly well-known national charity at the West End of Berkshire. It's come up again this year, and it's literally on my doorstep. I thought, well, that's handy. So I did approach them and say, can we help again? Because they've always been very happy with us before. And the response was, thank you very much, but we've now got an outside organisation doing our logistics. Now, this outside organisation is providing communications, among other things. I don't yet know, but I will go to endeavour to find out. So I wonder if anybody else has come across this. We're wondering if they've become risk averse, and so they've got some
G4 KWT, G4 and RC, lost all after averse, over.
Oh, that's interesting. G4 KWT, I wonder if they've become risk averse, and so.
G4 KWT, G4 and RC, your audio dropped again. I'll comment and then pass it back, see what's going on with Pheonix. I've also had an event which was a largish national charity, which we were only just getting used to before COVID. On the return, they equally went to having, since they had not many volunteers because they stood them all down in COVID, they went to using an external company for, as you say, organisation and logistics. So they want to do their own thing to justify their own fee, I suppose. So I have seen this move. It's not necessarily risk averse. It's down to lack of volunteers, was the way I took it. G4 KWT, let's see how that copy was. G4 and RC, over.
%100% coming in.
For KWT, G4 and RC, just got a blip there. We'll move on, and hopefully things will improve on the next round, Dennis, but hopefully you copy the answer. G4KIL, your observations on everything, including Dennis's question. G4KIL, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC, G4KIL. Well, observations on some stuff. First of all, apologies for not getting on to the HF net yesterday. I was tired of doing something else. I did manage to listen in on a web SDR that's located at Burgess Hill, which is about 10 miles north of the south coast, which is where I am. I listened for a short while, about just before 10 minutes past, I think it was on first of all, 40 metres down 60. I didn't hear anything at all. I wasn't listening all that long, to be honest. And being Friday night for the rest of this month, that's likely to cap me out, unfortunately. What else to say? Oh, we've got our next event, overnight event, next in Sussex, South Sussex, next week in Horsham. That's Saturday night through to Sunday morning. I'm also tied up with something else on Sunday afternoon, so I won't make the DMR net next week either. Right, I think that was most of it. I mean, there were questions to do with call-outs and so on. I mean, in our case, we get the people we get. We still log availability in terms of what people expect their availability to be. A lot of people say standard, which kind of means if they're working, they'd be available if their employer was to say yes. So we get a group of those in each week to give us some idea, but we just have to go and see what happens if it happens. In terms of communication, our fallback, I think, would be to go to our 2 meter FM frequency. If we knew there was something happening and comms seemed to be down, we would kind of listen on there, perhaps go and locate ourselves somewhere where we could try and hear something clearly. Only other thing to mention, this coming Tuesday in the evening, we have our monthly meeting, which is a face-to-face meeting, South Sussex RAYNET, that's in the Hayes area. We're talking about remote repeaters. If anybody else would like to come along, I'm sure they'd be welcome. Check my call sign maybe on QRZ and give me an email or something, and I could tell you where we'll be. G4 NRC, G4 KIL.
G4KIL, G4NRC. Fantastic, thanks for that, Philip. Noted you tried listening through web SDRs. I looked on social media, but some of the backwater social media, not the mainstream, and noticed somebody saying how the conditions were so bad yesterday, they thought there was a fault with the web SDRs software, because wherever they went, there was nothing audible on 40 meters or 80 meters. And rather than the band actually being broken, they were blaming the software across multiple places, which was fun to watch for a while. Okay, in your monthly meeting next Tuesday, hopefully that gets a good attendance. Next to Phil, G4HUF, G4NRC, over.
Is G4HUF. Good afternoon to everybody on the net. I'll try very hard not to turn it into a Cheshire net, as we normally seem to do. Although, having said that, I could still do with a couple more bodies for next Saturday. Well, that's as far as it will go. With regard to the saga of RAYNET being superseded by facilities companies on events, I'm not surprised, because these days it's a case of my other major interest, which is heritage railways. A lot of the heritage railways are taking on more and more paid staff, because at the end of the day, they've got to the point where they are obliged almost to provide a regular service, if for no other reason to keep the income coming in. And all it takes is one volunteer in the wrong location to cry off, and potentially the whole railway can grind to a halt. So it's understandable that people are going over to paid facilities in that respect. And then, of course, when you think about volunteers, there was that good adage, if you want a job doing, give it to somebody who's very busy, because they will make time for it. They've got the commitment. And with volunteers, I can quote a very good example who Greg knows as well as I do. The former county controller is heavily committed in his retirement and dotage to both the National Trust and to his local Amdram society. And that takes up a fair bit of his time. And sometimes it's almost the case you wonder whether he's got the energy to do anything else. I know he has tonight, because he's feeding me. and one or two others. But you know, that's the other aspect that you've got to consider when you're thinking about volunteers. Anyway, on that note, I've waffled for long enough. I shall pass it back. G4NRC, this is G4HUF.
Or HUF, G4NRC returning. Okay, Phil, all noted. My question tends to be, where are these facilities companies getting the people from? Because certainly from what I'm seeing on runs which are professionally organised now rather than the ones that used to be done by the amateur athletics clubs, it might be a business, but they all still have day jobs and everybody still gets the flu. So I kind of can see, I think my point with the other national organisation was in COVID they just let all their organisers go and they've not come back, or they've not had the money to get them back yet, so it's been an easy shoe-in for a company to set up with. We've got capacity and we've got willing people who will work on 0 hours contracts, I suspect. Anyway, let's drift into Ian, Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC in the group, G3ZHX. Good afternoon all. Yes, as regards external companies, I was on a road stoppage once where I was handed a PMR set and told to use that to talk to the 2 motorbikes that were going up and down, escorting people who absolutely had to drive that road while the bikes were coming up. And what I found was, as soon as the bikes went round the corner, nobody could hear anybody. I suspect what had happened is that whoever had hired the radios had got the cheapest ones on the list, and they were only really suitable for use within a warehouse. Obviously there's a use for such things, but not on the event that we were on. So it's a question of, do these people doing the external comms, do they actually have the expertise to do it, which hopefully is our strength. But the people who are running the event may not have the experience to know that. And as far as number of people on an event is concerned, we appear to have lost yet another event. They've just gone quiet. And that means we are worrying more about event per volunteer rather than volunteers per event. And I personally wonder whether people will lose interest because we're not calling on them. That is a worry. However, we will have to wait and see. So with that, I shall hand it back from G3ZHX.
Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4NRC returning. Okay, yes, the first thing that came to my mind when you said that last bit about will volunteers lose interest if nothing to do, does make me wonder how RAYNET managed to survive from 1953 to 83 when we weren't allowed to do public service events. I seem to recall the ability to do so-called public service came with the limitation of no more than 12 events a year and 1 per month ideally. It was there to replace training, to augment training, not be the only training. So yeah, groups might have to adapt to doing more of their own training activities rather than using public service events to do it on. Knowledge of radio is indeed our strength, but then again, some of these national companies don't know where they're going, so they just go to the local PMR company. And certainly a major voluntary first aid society in our area just keeps using POC, so-called radios now, so it's push-to-talk cell phones. Okay, we've got 3 to go, and that makes it Chris next. Call 3, Victor Echo Hotel, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, G3VH, okay, great. Right, so last call in from this QTH to move. You've been passing my QTH within about 200 metres for quite a while when you've been doing your trips down to Winchester. I was about 2 miles south of
Scotty Services, just northeast of the water tower at the top of the hill, the inverted conical water tower with the various aerials festooning its roof. So we're moving from here a week tomorrow. So there's boxes everywhere and total chaos. Organised chaos, of course. Anyway, nice to be able to work from this one. Get the kids sorted out at the remote end, which is Millbrook in East Cornwall, near Tor Point. Very close to the origins, which I originate from Liscard. Anyway, thanks for running the net this afternoon, and we look forward to working you from the new QTH before too long. G4NRC, G3VH Winchester.
Golf 3 Victor Echo Hotel, G4NRC returning. Okay, well, yes, that's actually a very appropriate point for you to say, since Graham's listening, I might need some help covering the nets next week, because depending on when we get back from Winchester with 2 car loads of stuff bringing M6RBM back from there, I'm hoping to be back in time for the nets, but whether or not I'll be sensible is a different matter. So, yes, Winchester's going to feel very empty then with you gone, and Becca moved out as well, along with a load of students. Well, good luck with the move. And certainly I'm hoping for some good luck that it all actually fits in 2 cars, since that's how she went down. You weren't too clear if you were leaving on this one or staying around for the second round, so can I just get that clarified before I move on? G3VH, G4NRC, over.
I should have said, I'll duck out of this time, Greg, but happy maybe I've done that before now, is moving student gear from Falmouth back up to this part of the world. Anyway, all the best for now, and speak to you from Cornwall before too long. G3VH, cheers.
G3VH, G4NRC, fantastic, Chris. Okay, copied you was out on that one. And yeah, look forward to getting a Cornish presence back in. And good luck. Okay, 2 to go. Drew on this round. Drew, Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra. What to say, as far as manning is concerned, I think you have to cut your cloth to suit the event, assuming that you can do it safely. We try to double man checkpoints that we can. We probably end up with a few singles. For the last event, we were actually quite well off for people, although they did come in from all over the region. So yeah, we do the best we can with what we've got available. As far as losing events to commercial companies, I watched an event being managed by a commercial security company, and I watched them lead a Arctic through a load of people with no barriers and utter chaos, and then proceeded to flash blue lights on the back of a box marked civil defence. So I guess it's just the way of the world from M0MSS.
Mike 0, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4NRC. Yeah, that's not a good move when somebody thinks they can use blues and they shouldn't. And likewise, traffic segregation. How did this one come about? Let's remind an organiser on our half marathon the other week, had they actually advised the ambulance service, because we seem to have a period where we had far more ambulances on the course than the St John ones. And had we actually told the ambulance service the route was in use for a marathon, half marathon, and it shouldn't be used for normal through traffic, but we had more vehicles at times than we had casualties, so that liaison also has to be there. I will remember what I was going to say about Arden networks for the next round, Drew, but for the moment, let's go to Elodie to wrap this round up, and we'll go back to the top. 2 Echo 0, Mike Zulu Alpha, G4NRC, over.
2 Anthony for G4NRC. Where to start? Events and resourcing. Yeah, it's always a challenge to get as many people as you'd like. I guess you have to basically offer the service tailored to what you can resource and work with the event organisers to agree a service that so they can take it on or decide not to. In regards to companies providing comms, yeah, have seen it on occasion, not been overly impressed, kind of wondering whether they really know what they were doing or whether they can actually handle something, a situation that presents itself more than just a day-to-day, like comms between checkpoints, for example. A blue light service is required or some sort of quite significant event. I have question marks already whether they handle it or also provide sufficient cover over a wide distance where you have to stick up repeaters and so on and be able to coordinate that sufficiently as well. I'm not convinced, but what you do what you can with what you've got and what you can offer the service. There's that. With regards to HF probability and the current situation with the solar weather, yeah, it's certainly being felt this weekend. Timer. I'll wrap this up quickly. This weekend and previous weekends, and based on recent reports over the past this weekend, the two major hotspots, as it were, on the sun appear to be getting ready to turn to face towards to the Earth in a more direct-facing way. So we could expect more adverse solar activity impacting comms. Although this morning I was able to get some FT8 going in on 6 meters into Denmark, Sweden and Finland, so at least on 6 meters things are working okay. But yeah, I think we need to be ready to operate on whatever works to get the message across over the next few weeks until things calm down with the solar weather. 2 weeks around today for G4 and RC.
To Echo Zero, Mike Zulu Alpha, G4 and RC returning. Okay, yeah, all noted, and yes, good spot there. FT8 at 50 megahertz. I did see when I woke up this morning, which was this morning, honestly, that sporadic E is very much in fashion, and there was some good contacts from the UK across to Scandinavia and across into Eastern Europe, depending on the band of your choice. So the other reason we are more flexible than any other service is that we can run everything from satellites down to submarine communications. No frequency is out of our reach. Okay, bearing in mind that some people on Pheonix might need to keep their repeaters awake, I'm just going to drop for 10 seconds and let anybody wake their repeaters up that feels they need to before we hit the second round, G4 and RC.
Echo Alpha 6, stroke Mike 0, November Alpha Sierra, also on channel.
Mike 0, November Alpha Sierra. Neil, there's some significant audio artifacts there, but do you want to call in before I go back to the top? Mike 0, November Alpha Sierra, G4 and RC, over.
Yeah, G4 and RC. This is Echo Alpha 6, stroke Mike 0, November Alpha Sierra. Good afternoon, Greg. Then this is Neil, Essex RAYNET, currently on holiday in Mallorca. Just thought I'd call in and say good evening or good afternoon. And yeah, just if you're copying, if you just confirm if you're copying me. If not, I'll just come back on one of the subjects. So.
M0NAS, yes, I am copying you. Audio situation is much more understood now. I know where you are. Go ahead, over.
G4NRC, Echo Alpha 6, Mike 0, November Alpha Sierra. Yeah, it's just been, I have been listening since the top of the hour, but wasn't sure of the call sign for the Balearics, so I had to look it up. With regard to the groups shipping out comms to people, we've had the reverse in Essex. Two of our local hospice charities were using a private company for comms and organising events. They've found that the fees that they were charging was too much, so they've taken it back in-house and have therefore asked us to rejoin them. This was all following in COVID. They furloughed all their sort of fundraising teams and then shipped it off to the private companies. But now we're finding they're coming back to us for help at their charity events, which is good. Other than that, not much else. I can't really comment on recruiting for events because I'm not a controller. But I probably won't be around for the next round. But just want to say hello and 7-3. G4NRC, Echo Alpha 6, Mike 0, November Alpha Sierra.
Echo Alpha 6 / Mike 0, November Alpha Sierra. Okay, Neil. Yeah, your hotspots and everything finally got into some sync, but the initial call in was very strange and burbly. But all copied and good. Some events are coming backwards from private companies to the charity sector, which is good. It's just a shame it's down to us potentially being seen as cheaper. But yeah, that's fine. Enjoy your holiday. It's well deserved. And thanks for checking in. And some others got their repeaters reset as well, so we're winning. Okay, let's go round for any further and final comments. Golf 8 Echo Yankee, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC from G8EY. Yes, all comments noted. I think back to the halcyon days when Norfolk County RAYNET had over 100 members. But that was in the days before mobile phones and WhatsApp. And I think WhatsApp's getting used a lot now with organisations doing events. It's just easier if they've got something that's not too time critical to use apps like that. But we're still there if they need us. But if they don't need us, then there's always the possibility we may not exist into the future, which is a bit of a shame. Anyway, thanks for running the net, Greg. May hear from you next week if your trip back from Winchester goes okay. Yeah, I've been involved in manoeuvres like that when I was a student, but I was the body being moved. And it's amazing how much stuff you can get into a Cortina estate if you really work on it. And you're providing, you're happy to be a bit uncomfortable because you're wedged in between stuff. From G8EY, over.
Echo Yankee, G4NRC returning. Okay, well, yeah, Cheshire had 60 plus members, and we don't actually have mobile phones then as well. What I think people are not quite getting yet is that some applications are quite bloated and need bigger networks. So, as I said, we've got a certain medical service now using POC handsets, which are great, except there are chunks of Cheshire where their SIM cards don't reach. So we still have value where the mobile phones don't go, and as they've switched 3G off pretty much nationwide bar one network at the moment, that's a lot of people not having the brilliant high data rate coverage they used to have. So a simple SMS message will get through where a bloaty WhatsApp with all its icons and stuff may not. Which is why, giving Drew a chance to roll his eyes before I get to him, on the Arden network, I'm looking at putting up some of the slimmer messaging modes like XMPP, Jabber, and IRC, Internet Relay Chat, just because they're there, and I don't see anybody else putting any servers up for those. So I'll discuss more on that later, but again, we wouldn't easily tolerate somebody handing us a 400-page message to pass, but we would try and pass it. But we should really try and do it in the leanest method possible, given what we've got available to us. Okay, thanks, Mike. Hopefully talk to you soon. Next is Dave, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Just have copy, Greg. My hotspot's here to a guide.
7 AVO, you're loud and clear. Carry on, Dave, over.
G4NRC, M7 AVO. Roger, Greg, thanks for that. Yeah, I've just been I've just been listening to the net on Graham's live stream, which is slightly delayed. So my hotspot went blank and disappeared. So yeah, it's back up and running. Not a great deal to add this end, Greg. I'm at the fire station on Wednesday evening for my usual training night, so possibly won't be on the 2-meter net. But if I get a chance, I'll disappear out to the car for 10 minutes and see what contact can be made from Tarpley at 19:30. Back to you, Mike 7, Alpha Victor Oscar.
Victor Oscar, G4NRC. Okay, copied. Yes, West Cheshire RAYNET Group 2-meter net will be at 19:30 hours on Wednesday, following me having had an all-day event for work and a dentist trip, so I'm sure I'll be in a wonderful mood by the time I get to the net time. So it'll be from home. I won't get up onto a hilltop, even though I think the weather might be wonderful for it. Okay, thanks, Dave. Next to Dennis, G4KWT, G4NRC, over.
G4KWT, hoping it holds up. Yep, interesting to hear all the comments. Thanks for those. Some useful stuff, and it sounds like it's the situation I'm seeing here might be a bit general. Nothing further other than an observation on the last round. I think most stations were copied 100%, except for G4KIL and G3ZHX. Both had quite a few very momentary dropouts. I wonder if there's a common denominator between those two. Also, M0 MFS lost a chunk of audio. I was looking at the dashboard and there was nothing visible on the dashboard. They seem to be continuous carriers, if that's the right word, but audio issues. Or something somewhere else. And that, thanks for the net, Greg. We'll sign out. G4KW2.
WT, G4NRC returning. Yeah, no problem. Yes, I didn't notice any significant dropouts on KIL and ZHX. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, whether there's something happening on the Brandmeister Pheonix bridge or not for that, but certainly seemed okay to hear. All situations are generalised. Everybody's situation is personal. Your local event organisers might be better or worse than everybody else's, such is the way of humanity. Okay, have a good week, Dennis. Talk to you soon. G4KIL for a final. G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, G4KIL. Yeah, thanks very much, Greg. Yeah, not too much further, I don't think. I would say in terms of plans for the breaking up the piggy bank at my end, possibly towards the end of the year, we'll be thinking of one of the loop antennas, which might allow me to actually at least run the JSA calls from the flat where I live. Any comments on that, really? I'm sort of looking at the ones that are limited to 50 watts because the price gets a bit silly to go above that. And I recognise the difficulty of retuning even between the JS8, the normal JS8 call frequency on 40 meters and when we call, I think it'd be significant retuning between the two. Anyway, that's probably my main comment at the moment. So thanks for on the net. I'll be on next week, I don't think. Hopefully a fortnight's time. G4 NRC, G4 KL.
G4 KIL, G4 NRC, now getting all the bridges to lock up. Okay, loop antennas generally have to be a bit QRP because of the high voltage across the tuning capacitor at the top. If you're looking for something that works on 80 meters and down to those areas, you're looking at quite a large diameter loop, which you might actually be able to achieve slightly differently by just running a wire around floorboards, ceiling, and up and down the corners of a wall. There is an MFJ loop tuner, which might be worth a look at. Something I've been thinking about for a while, just haven't had the opportunity and a passing piggy bank. But you're quite right, the loop tuning is very sharp. The other thing to bear in mind is that we are all still obligated to follow the RF exposure rules in the license. And our American colleagues do get quite passionate about not running high power to loops in the same room that you might be in. So maybe worth a discussion on another net another time, Philip. Okay, 7-3 to you, down to HUF for a pre-dinner final. G4 HUF, G4 NRC, over.
This is G4 HUF returning. Yeah, interesting. I mean, funnily enough, you know, with the event that's rapidly approaching, which seems to be our only event these days. Because the other event that we seem to do regularly is technically one of yours. It's a case of thinking about how to maintain interest. And of course, with no longer having the county emergency planning unit, as it was, available to us, access to sites to run training sessions, lectures, and that sort of thing, makes life a lot more challenging. And of course, my newest member, an M7, who also happens to be a CFAV, translated into Cadet Forces Adult Volunteer, is quite keen and enthusiastic about doing formal training. So no doubt, once we've got the house sorted out here, I'm going to have to start thinking about that side of things as well. It might just prompt one or two people to get a little bit more involved instead of just wandering around being card-carrying, inactive RAYNET members. So that's my two penneth. No promises, but you never know. You might find me on the net on Wednesday. We'll see what we can do. If we've made sufficient progress within the house, you never know, I might be allowed out. And on that note, I shall say 73s to everybody. Thanks for setting up and running the net. And we'll look forward to the next time. G4 NRC, G4 HUF.
Or HUF, G4 NRC returning. Okay, yes, aware of your new members' enthusiasm, which is great. Yeah, sites to run lectures, etc. Maybe challenging, maybe not. We do have other facilities like fire stations that may have community rooms that can be booked. And certainly that's what we used down at Tarpley. with Dave's good offices to get our AGM done. So, yeah, venues is not always a showstopper, and between the groups, I think we have room to, well, money if you like, to rent a room for a training session if necessary. I'm sure we can sort that one out. Okay, have a good meal, Phil. Talk to you maybe Wednesday, maybe next week. Got 7-3s to you, and on to Ian for a final. Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC and the Group G3 ZHX. I'm wondering if there's something funny going on. My hotspot has run for nearly 3 years, and then yesterday I had to cycle the power on it. We tried turning it off and on again. Cycle the power on it to get it to come back to life. And I was chatting to a member of our group this afternoon, or this morning rather, and he had to reset, I think, his hotspot. Certainly had to reset something. Now it seems to be catching. Who knows? Anyway, we'll leave it there, and thank you for running the net, and we'll hope to speak to you next week or the week after. From G3ZHX, now going standby.
ZHX, G4 and RC returning. Okay, Ian, sounds like it's time for our public service announcement that SD cards in Raspberry Pis and hotspots are not infinite life, and over time they will require replacement. I think with COVID we were seeing them croak at a rate of roughly once every 12 months. So if you've got 3 years out of yours and then things start to look a bit flaky, migrating your configuration to a new SD card might be a way of getting it back to life. But the inverse to that is that Dave, M7AVO, has pretty much had a hotspot like Trigger's broom. He's replaced the SD card, the processor, the head unit, and he still has occasional difficulties. So yeah, it's not reliable. If it was reliable, we wouldn't need weekly nets to make sure everything's working. So right, 7-3s to you. Look forward to talking to you soon. Yeah, Drew, Foxtrot Sierra. I've got some host names appearing on Arden. They are multiple host names, but really they're all pointing at one ancient Western Digital MyBook network file system, which has now been swapped into running OpenWRT. So I'm looking at getting some lightweight servers on there just to prove I can more than anything else and keep it in a small playpen, not out on the public internet. So there is stuff coming up to play with. Mike Zero, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC, M0MFS. Yeah, my Arden stuff is still sitting here, and it's trundling away, and it's being quite reliable, though not being used. I did purchase a brand new Ubiquiti IP phone, and all modern technology is really quite cute and also not too expensive. Anyhow, at the moment I'm learning more about Motorola hardware than I really intended to. I'm becoming a DR3000 service engineer, which wasn't my plan, but such is life. Thanks for running the net, and catch you all next week from M0MFS.
Mike Zero, Mike Foxtrot Sierra, G4 and RC returning. Yes, well, I've got one phone here that I had to get as an extra, just so I could do some IP to IP phone testing over Arden with Trevor G4KUJ. But also spinning up on the Western Digital Boudad is an Asterisk server, and I really didn't want to learn Asterisk, but I think I'm going to have to. So that's my next bit, because I would still like to have some system where all these little puddles of data telephone systems that RAYNET's got could actually meet together in one place with the common prefixes like we use for DMR talk groups. And then we could take the extra step of being able to dial into a DMR net from your Arden phone. But that is going to be something that will have to happen between now and Christmas, and I'm not saying which one. Okay, good luck with the Motorola learning, and the last word today goes to Elodie. 2 Echo 0, Mike Zulu Alpha, G4 and RC, over.
G4NRC, today. Firstly, thanks for running the net as usual. Great stuff. Secondly, yes, and thought 3 KIL's interesting loop antennas. I have had some interest in loop antennas, particularly the Alex loop antenna that's intended as was a special partnership with Alex loop, the AL705. Anyway, specifically about loop antennas, as I understand it, they tend to be quite narrow in their tuning, so it's like you're operating inside a notch filter. So, depending on the mode you're working, like the digital mode, then you might be fine, might be able to exist in that, but if there's the modes that need to be quite dynamic in the ability to try and move around the band, or a particular portion of the band, like maybe FT8 or whatever, it might be a bit tiresome because you might have to retune or something like that. But also, tuning itself can be a bit of a black art because they're subject to, quite sensitive to environmental factors like body capacities, temperature or time of day of temperature and so on. So like you might find SWR and tuning will vary depending on your proximity to it physically, also temperature and other factors. They're great in some respect because they're low noise, but they do take a bit to master. So I've not pulled the trigger on one of those yet. I'll just say 7-3, thanks for running here, and 2-0-8 for G4NRC. Back to you.
2 Echo 0, Mike Zulu Alpha, G4NRC returning. Yes, but they're also quite easy to make up and play with if you've got the appropriate tools and toys. So anybody with YouTube, if you look up Kevin Laughlin, old tech guy on YouTube, has just done a bit of a 3D printed homebrew loop using some coax shorted together to make the low impedance required for the loop conductor and so on. So they are something that's very easy to experiment with as well, but that usually takes time. Okay, thanks everybody. I'll bring the net to a close at that point. We're going a little over our usual time, even if it is a half-term weekend. So thanks everybody for taking time out of your schedule to participate this afternoon. We've had some good discussions. Be careful, have a good week, and until next Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time, I will close the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net and return talk group 23531 on Pheonix and Brandmeister and 5023531 on RAYNET-UK to being an open net rather than a directed net. 730, this is G4NRC now closing and reverting to my normal call sign of Golf 0, Delta Uniform Bravo. Bye bye.